Rust is the killer of classic cars. I think we can all agree to that. But what's the best way to get rid of rust? How can I remove the rust and make sure that it never comes back? What if I told you there's a time-tested way that many people have never heard of? Well, today we're going to go over a step-by-step process, show you every product and every procedure we use in order to make sure your vehicle never rusts out again. The secret of rust removal is to get rid of it from the get-go. But how do you do that? Well, you could media blast it, you could chem strip it, or you could go old school and you could mechanically sand or grind most or all of the rust off. Whatever way you do is up to you. But what do you do next? We're going to use this phosphate coating, these metal conditioners, and the cool thing about this is going to give you a layer of protection that's better than anything out there. Most people don't realize that rust will creep in 30 minutes or less on raw steel at 50% relative humidity. This is going to solve that problem. We're going to use these coatings and we're going to back it up with an epoxy primer, and no, we're not using etch. We're in the process of restoring a square body Chevy. This is a K10. We're using a lot of aftermarket parts on this, and this is obviously the left fender. The first step is to make sure that the fender fits correctly to the vehicle. We've already done that. We're moving on and we're doing our metal finishing. We're gonna bump any minor dents and we're gonna come in and fix everything, but we're not using body fillers at this point. I find media blasting works best, especially on the backside. If that's not your situation, I would at least use the DA with some 80 grit. It's more aggressive because of the throw or the cut, if you will. But if you don't have a DA, or if it's too hard for you to use, you can use a palm sander. It just takes more time. Get it about a 50% sanded and then back it up with a 150 grit with a DA. This particular epoxy we're using, the Delfleet F4921, states that it wants between a 120 and a 180 grit before you go to prime. We're gonna leave it in a 150 grit, and we're gonna use Rolox and wire wheels to get all the hard to reach places. I also like using these Norton soft touches. This is their most aggressive one that they currently have. It's a 120/180, so it's perfect for our primer. Again, this is not an OEM part. This e-coat that's on this fender should not be trusted. If you work in a collision shop, you would never strip factory OEM e-coat. That is not the situation we're in. I find rust under this aftermarket e-coat all the time. We absolutely want to strip it all, and most of this e-coat is 1 mil or less. Once you've removed all of the old rust, or in our case, the aftermarket e-coat and the little bit of rust we found underneath it, it's best to blow it off and do a quick wax and grease so you can do a final inspection to make sure you're ready to move on. We're now ready to start our conversion coatings. We will include a P-sheet in the description below so you can follow this easy two-step process. Step 2 is this metal conditioner, the SX520. All I'm gonna do is put a spray topper on it to make it easier to use, and I can set that aside. The other step, step 1, the SX579, must be mixed with 1 part product and 2 parts water. So this is not ready to use out of the bottle. With the SX579, when I buy a new quart, all I do is I dump it all out. I keep 10 ounces of the product and pour it back into the bottle, and then I add 20 ounces of water, giving me my 1-to-2 mix ratio. Again, this is a simple 2-step process. Step 1 is taking my SX579 that's already been mixed, I spray it onto the surface, and I use a red Scotch-Brite and I work it in. It's not much different than washing a car. I just go back and forth, I work it in for a couple minutes. After that, I gotta wait. and the P-sheet says to wait 2 to 3 minutes before you move on. After I've waited my 2 to 3 minutes, I can rinse it with cool, clean water. A lot of guys will use a hose and it will form a weird rust look to it. What we like to use is a bucket of water that's at least room temperature, and we'll use a clean white rag to wipe it off. Now I get to apply my metal conditioner, the SX520. Again, this is straight out of the can. I use a different red Scotch-Brite. I apply it to the surface, and just like step one, I just work it in for a couple minutes. After that, I gotta wait. With this product, I only need to wait 1 to 2 minutes according to the P-sheet. It's imperative on a hot day not allow your step 1 or your step 2 product to dry. Always keep it wet, keep the red Scotch-Brite moving, and do smaller areas if it's a super hot day. After my 1 to 2 minute wait, I'm working out of the same bucket, so I have room temperature water. I'm using a different rag, and I absolutely want to get this stuff wiped off, and I want to make sure that it's rinsed really well. If you don't, it creates this weird sludge and nothing wants to stick to it. Once it's been rinsed very thoroughly, I want to just use a blowgun and get it clean and dry. Now it's ready to go in the booth. If you have some areas that you do not want to prime, make sure you mask those up. We just stripped the face of our Fender. Our cut-ins are still in that aftermarket E-coat, so we're going to tape those up to protect them. The epoxy we're using today is in PPG's Delfleet line. This is the F4921, and you can get it in white, gray, or black. This is far superior to the old DPLF and the DPLV. This is a 3-1-1 mix. There's 0 induction time, and this epoxy is very thin. The P-sheet wants you to use a 1.3 to a 1.5 tip. We're using a 1.4 tip today in our primer gun. This product calls for 1 to 2 coats. If you're putting 2 coats on, you want to wait 10 to 15 minutes in between coats. The cool thing about this epoxy primer is you can put up to 3 mils of product. Most epoxies are typically a mil or less. So if you're going to be sanding it and applying body filler over your epoxy, which is very popular, you can hose this stuff on even though it's super thin, and you can achieve up to 3 mils of dry film build. What are these products actually doing? Let's start with the SX579, the metal cleaner. Yeah, it cleans the metal. That's not all that it does. This acid will actually come in and etch the substrate, and it will eat out the rust. And this is a really good product to use if you've got little bits of surface rust still down in like some pinholes or some cracks and crevices that you couldn't get out. So this guy is the workhorse. It's gonna remove the rust, and it's gonna clean the bare metal, and it's gonna etch the bare metal. What about this product, the SX520? This right here is the metal conditioner. Using this in the water, it's gonna neutralize the acid, but also what it's gonna do, it's gonna put a protective layer of zinc phosphate over it to give you the best protection and the best adhesion when you coat it with a high-end epoxy. Another thing that I like about this process is that, let's say you get a little chip in your car. Normally, a small chip on the raw steel will grow and grow, and it'll climb under the primers, and it will swell, and it'll get bigger if left unattended. By using this system here, that little stone chip will not grow any bigger. It might get a little bit white and crusty and flaking looking, but it will not continue to grow, and it's a sacrificial coating that is worth its weight in gold. I've been using epoxies in restoration and custom for decades, and I do believe that it offers the best bare metal protection. The problem with epoxies is everyone thinks that the DPLF or the DPLV are king, and they were a good product for a long time. But when I put a coat down, I have to wait days or weeks. A lot of us were waiting a month before we scuffed or sanded and put a primer over top of it, or scuffed or sanded and put our body filler over it. With the Delfleet 4921, that's all gone. You can literally prime it, wait a day or two. I can come in with my Norton Soft Touch. This is the same 120/180 that I was using earlier, or I could use a little piece of 150 with a red Scotch-Brite as a backer. I can sand my areas that need to have body filler, scuff them up a little bit, apply my body filler, and work that in. So it's way faster, way more convenient. What else do I like about the Delfleet epoxy? It's cheaper, there's no induction time, and it offers better bare metal protection. DPLF and DPLV are dead. Let's not forget about safety. We're dealing with acids and a lot of deadly, harmful chemicals. Make sure you wear your safety glasses, wear gloves, and wear a respirator. That should go without saying, but we have to push that, especially to the younger generation. Another thing that's gonna come up is someone's gonna wanna know about etch. Why didn't we use etch? I don't know how to say this nicely, so I'll just say it. Etch is an inferior product when it comes to restoration and when it comes to customizing. If you're doing collision work, if you're doing production work, does etch have a place? Absolutely. But today's video is about restoration and how to get the best bare metal protection, and etch isn't even in the conversation. You don't believe me? If you look at the P sheets, they do not even allow you to put an etch over this product. It will fail. So you absolutely want to use an epoxy when you're using metal conversion coatings. Hopefully you learned a lot from this video, and you can like and subscribe. If you like this video, we have a video that you may like better. It's about how to get clean paint jobs, to get better paint jobs and make more money. Until the next time, from David and Gary, see you guys later.